Hey guys, welcome back to segment 3 of my overview for 2018 and Year of the Serpent. So we are on the last segment, I believe, and maybe I'll continue them as I get new ideas. But I want to get to my last theme, which is the Garden of Eden theme. So as a quick review to bring us up to where we need to be, we started out with the spiritual implications of 2018, which is communication, love, understanding, and compassion. How could I forget? So it looks to be a very good, spiritually enlightened year. We are really going to start enlightening, and people are not only going to be waking up, but finding their compassion within waking up. So that's a good thing. Then we talked a little bit about the reptilian conspiracy. We talked about how the reptilians would like to take over this earth and keep humans as a slave species, as the popular theory goes, because they came from another, I think it was another galaxy or another star cluster, Draco, and they're a warring alien group. They take over planets very well. That's what they do. That's what they're known for. They came to Earth. They settled here. This was during or around the dinosaurs. They left, they came back, and humans were here. And they feel that this is their planet. And they have special equipment. So that was a little bit into the reptilian theme. Then it was funny because often reptiles or snakes are symbolic of the devil. So then we got into the meaning of the serpent, since this is Year of the Serpent. And we discovered that the serpent is actually a beautiful symbol, a very spiritually rich symbol, perfect for this year. First, duality. Second, fertilization, rebirth, infinity, eternity, creative force. It can also be evil and cunning, and tempting. So the snake is regarded by most, if not all cultures, or the serpent I should say, as a very powerful being. And let me add that many cultures now we have found have actual statues, art pieces that they've made of humanoid looking reptilian creatures that stand on two legs, kind of like a human, but have that reptilian face. So that's very interesting too. So then we talked about a very interesting aspect, the devil, and the devil as a misunderstood creature, the devil as a rebel of God who was really trying to enlighten the then, in the Garden of Eden, human animals to the full spectrum of emotions that only the gods got to see. He wanted to take them out of blissful ignorance and expose them to everything, pain, suffering. Unfortunately, that doesn't sound good, but we were in a state of ignorance. He exposed us to the full spectrum. And for that, he was cast out of hell for trying to enlighten us. He was cast from heaven. We were punished because we were given mortality. So now we were like the gods in that we knew good and evil. We were unlike them in that we were sent to a place of duality with mortality. So we talked about the devil. And yeah, that brings us right to the Garden of Eden scenario. So this is my favorite theme so far. I love talking about it. I think we are right in this. And I think the Garden of Eden is a great story to talk about from the Christian perspective, to explain why we are where we are in the present day, how we got here, and how we're going to get ourselves out of it. So let's just start from the beginning. Let's just do a brief review of the story of the Garden of Eden. So you had Adam and Eve, as well as other human animals in there. After I read, it turns out Adam and Eve were not the only human animals, as it's put, in the Garden of Eden. There were quite a few. And they were made by the gods in the God's image, which makes sense because they say we're, made in the God's image. Okay, well, this can relate to the alien idea of that humanoid look. Aliens often have a humanoid appearance, like us. And they put us in this garden. Now, some of it's metaphorical. We don't know where exactly this garden existed, if it did. A paradise somewhere, who knows? Heaven, maybe. Um, and we had everything we needed. And we lived in blissful ignorance. We did not have any sex. I remember reading there was a way we procreated that the gods knew about and did for us without sex. And I just like to note this, that although it might not be covered as much with the Christian gods, Christianity started and evolved from Catholicism in Rome and Greece. And there you had tons of mythologies um, with the ancient gods. And let me tell you, this is what it's part of too. These gods were partiers, okay? And I think people get lost on that. These gods were not angelic, perfect beings. If you think about it, Zeus and Hades, these gods were powerful, but so imperfect, just like humans. They cheated, they fought, they killed, they lost, they sacrificed. I mean, it was like a soap opera. Mythology is like a soap opera with these gods. So we get to Christianity, and that gets lost a little bit because then you have the one God. But my point being is just that, the gods in general that I think of were, imperfect. And so ultimately, God made us so perfect. We were half human, half animal. We could only know good. We had no reason to procreate. And although it sounds good to live in a state of blissful ignorance and know nothing, it really wasn't getting us anywhere. We were almost like their little playthings, in a way. In a petri dish, we were treated well, but, what was our purpose? Just to be their very well-treated examination? So here comes along. So now we're in the garden, and of course we're told by the gods, you can do anything you want here. The one thing you cannot do is eat from the tree of knowledge. Now, of course, they had to put a tree of knowledge in there. And, because the tree of knowledge, which is also known as the tree of good or evil, or the tree of duality, if we ate from it, they told us we would die. And what that means is not literal death in that moment, but that you would become mortal. And in that way, we wouldn't be like them. But that didn't seem to stop us, because we were tempted by the snake or the devil, what have you. He came around and, he said, eat from the tree of knowledge. This is what the gods are like. This is the God, because the gods knew good and evil. They knew suffering. They knew joy. They knew everything. They wanted to protect us from that. But we were tempted and we ate the apple, and the gods punished us. And, what happened was we became mortals, and we were sent down from paradise into this world of duality, of good and evil, that we struggle with every day. And, and we know mortality. But we're like the gods, in that we have experienced and evolved through the whole spectrum of spiritual emotions. We know great suffering, great pleasure, duality. We know the conflict of good and evil, of fighting instinctual urges and striving to be good. So we've lived a very rich life because of this. So it was worth mortality in a way. And that must have been what Eve and Adam felt, that it was worth mortality. So anyway, they eat from the Garden of Eden. They eat from the tree of knowledge, and their ignorance is now broken. They now know sin. Their ignorance is gone. So that is the story. And that explains, in the Christian perspective, why we are in the situation we are in today. Why we are dealing with this state of duality that we cannot shake. Why it's all about the push of good and evil constantly. Everything is polarized. Um, why we suffer. You know, it explains really where we are now. That story. It's very relevant. And it's very relevant as humans who are tempted by many things all the time. So now, what I want to bring it to, and I don't know if people will understand this, but this is how I see it, is that in that Garden of Eden, we had to eat from the apple in order to attain a certain amount of enlightenment that the gods did not want us to attain, right? And we did it. And although it's called the fall, we fell, it really was a rise because we started to evolve. We were going nowhere in there. We would have lived forever the same. Our species started to evolve and learn and grow. And look where we are now. And in a way, I feel that we are now in a current, modern Garden of Eden. Not the same thing, maybe not the same place, certainly not as blissfully ignorant. We're at another stage of it because it's the modern Garden of Eden. We now know good and evil. We've got that all together. And at this point, we should be really ready to surpass duality because you don't have to live in a state of duality forever. That's a very human, earthly, three-dimensional condition, duality. That's a frequency thing. That's something we deal with. But if we can learn compassion and love for everyone, we can get out of it, which is why I continue to say this ad nauseum too. That's what it has to do with, because it's good and evil. And we struggle with both. So now we're at another turning point where again we're in a certain Garden of Eden, the modern one. We know suffering, we know joy, but we don't know everything. In fact, we don't know a lot. Eating from the tree of good and evil was only the start. There's a lot more than that going on, and we're starting to wake up to it. The truths of the world, where we really come from. These gods that put us in the Garden of Eden, whether it's metaphor or meant to represent something else that we don't know. Who are they? What are they? Are they the aliens? Are they real gods? Who knows? But we come from so much more, I think. That doesn't not to disparage evolution. That's not to disparage anything. That's just to say we don't know a lot. But as humans, we are often curious, but we can also be complacent. And that's how the powers that be like us. But we aren't complacent anymore. And we have a lot of temptations in the world now, and a lot of things to tempt us to once again eat from that tree of knowledge and find out more about what's going on. And just like the gods didn't want us to eat then, the powers that be don't want us to find out what's really going on. They don't want us to see that the system is all bullshit, and they don't want us to see the atrocities that it is. And they don't want us to wake up to chaos out of order, because they would like us to just stay in our ignorant little state of man, and not know anything better and go about our lives and go to our jobs. We're in the modern Garden of Eden. We're in the modern Garden of Eden. But we have to eat from that apple. We have to eat from that tree. We did it once, and we got to do it again. Because then we will rise up. Because there is more to know. And once again, we have to disobey those authority figures, those powers that be, whatever you call them. We have to go against them. We have to question them. And perhaps we have to allow ourselves to be led astray by what is considered a dark force or a serpent in order to find an even greater truth than good and evil. But this time, when we eat from this tree, we will evolve and we will become more enlightened. See, I think we became more enlightened as it was the first time. People call this a fall. When we first ate from the tree, people consider that the fall of man. Like we fell from something, because we fell from paradise. But really, what it was a fool's paradise, and we had no purpose. And then we got to experience sex and hedonism and good and bad. And that has led us to where we are now. So, in a way, it was so necessary. And that's why I say that the devil was almost a friend of humanity's, because he allowed us to go on this adventure and see things that we might not have otherwise seen. Um, just like we need whistleblowers to let us see things that we might not want to know. So that is my whole point of the Garden of Eden, because I feel that it's a story that is very well told. It explains why we are here now in this state from a Christian perspective, you know. And I also think that we are in the modern Garden of Eden, and we are still in a state of ignorance. Not as much as we used to be, but we are still in a state of ignorance, and we want to crack that, and we want to eat from that tree. And and we are more and more and more. And, you know, the time will come when we ultimately do, because we have to. As humans, I think we know we have to. We know we have to keep progressing, because we're in this weird limbo where we're always under some sort of control. Do you notice that? The government has us under this control all the time. You know, even in the Bible or in our daily lives, we're always controlled by a God. Or in Adam and Eve, we were in a paradise, but it was all over their control. And it's time for us to take control. And, you know, perhaps these reptilians, you know, perhaps they are part of this. You know, that's, you know, they always, there's a saying, it goes higher and higher and higher. And people will say that when you listen to interviews about the Illuminati or power structures or UFOs. They'll say, listen, there's always someone else that's higher than you. And it goes up and up and up. And I believe it goes so far up that it transcends Earth. There is something that has dealings with Earth. I think it's an alien type creature, and it could be the reptilians. And perhaps, you know, we could speculate that Lucifer is a reptilian and has done this all along to get us to this place. But I don't know. But all I know is that eating from the tree of knowledge the first time was the best thing we could ever do. Because even though we became mortal, we grew as a people, so much. And so we have to eat from that tree again. And we will grow again. And you know, they say that there's a lot of aliens that want us to, regardless of my story, metaphorically, that, you know, the Garden of Eden metaphor of today's situation. Just a little point, you know, reptilians aren't the only beings we talk about or that people have witnessed. There's a lot of aliens. Reptilians seem to be described as the ones who want to harm us or want to use us. But there's plenty that want to help us and want to see us, our consciousness shift and grow, and want us to evolve into a way better planet than we are at now. Because we're on a cusp, see? We're on a cusp. We have the technologies, we want to evolve, we're almost there, but there's just still something that holds us back in this sort of dysfunctional, hate-filled, you know, nuclear button type situation. And that's really how it's made to sound. Like that whole idea of the nuclear buttons and the wars. To these aliens, that is so below them. That is animalistic to them. They don't deal with that, but they know we have great potential. They know we have great potential, a lot of these aliens. And they want to see us, you know, they want to see us survive. And they don't want to see us destroy our own world or be taken over by these reptilian beings that, really just do this to many planets. And that's a little bit of a tangent, but just to get into that, you know. So it's all very interesting. But I'll leave you with this, Um, think about that. Think about the Garden of Eden and eating from the tree and what it did for us. And think about how it's necessary to eat again and to figure out what's going on. And again, we have to betray those in power to find the truth. Because even if they think they care for us and they think they know what's best for the world, they really don't. And you could say, metaphorically, the government is our gods. And we cannot allow them to keep us in a state of ignorance. We didn't before, and we won't again. Okay? So those are my beginning 2018 themes. I believe that I have already added one more theme. I've been talking so much about the need for compassion, and I realized it's summed up by one 3-word quote by Jesus Christ that means everything. Love thy enemy. That is the theme for this year. You should love everybody. You should love yourself and your friends. But it's hard to love thy enemy. But that is something that will set us free. That is something that will immediately eliminate the order out of control system. And this was said in the Bible, to love thy enemy. A beautiful quote, such a peace-inspiring quote. Why is that not talked about? Why is that not said ad nauseum when Jesus said it? Well, because it doesn't fit the world plans of, chaos and order. Love thy enemy. What the hell would they have to do? There would be absolutely no way to make conflict. And we live in a society where we think conflict is a norm. We think we must have conflict, and we think we must have the government to solve it. And that is not true. We don't need that. We've been fooled to think we need that. And again, it's all about eating from that apple. However you want to think of the apple as your computer that you go on and research things, go and read books, or just go about your life the way you see fit and have your own thoughts about things. And don't let yourself get caught up in the minutia and the bullshit with people and the anger, and you'll be okay, and we'll be okay. So that's my next theme. Love thy enemy. And it's tough, and I'm going to practice it too. But if we could do that, if we could all love thy enemy, just think how powerful that would be. Love thy enemy would change the whole setup, the whole stratosphere of the world. I mean, it would solve it all. And this is in our great Bible that people love to reference. Love thy enemy. Why? Because if you love thy enemy, then you basically are showing them that they can do whatever they want, but you can't be wavered in your love. And that shows them that they can either choose to love you back or remain in their own hate. But they can't touch you anymore. And more than likely, they will choose to love because people want to be loved. And when people hate, they are afraid. And they are afraid, usually, that they are not being loved or that you are so different than them that it makes them afraid and threatened. But if you just show them love, that whole energy that they're pushing at you gets expelled. If you show them hate back, well, we really just do the same thing we've been doing for years. And I don't think people are happy with that. And it's time to love thy enemy. That doesn't mean you kiss and hug them and say, you are the best thing. It means that you don't let them bother you. That you take a thought about them and say, why are they like this? What's going on inside their heads? You think about them with compassion. And you treat them with compassion. You say, why are you doing this? And if they really don't want to talk to you and they hate you that much, then you kindly leave them alone and say, if you need me, I'll be here. It'll change everything, I swear. It would change everything. I'm talking about on a pedestrian, what we can do level. Yeah. Interesting. Love thy neighbor, next theme. Because that's what we have to do now. I mean, not love thy neighbor, love thy enemy. Because it seems like there's a lot of enemies out there. We have a lot of different social groups. We have a lot of different countries. We got a lot of different things going on in the world. And the one thing we got to do is try to love our enemy. And I say, let's do it. Alrighty, well, that's it for now. Thank you for listening to that. I hope you have a great day, and I will be back later. Comment, tell me what you think, subscribe if you remember, and have a wonderful day.